Hello, and welcome to the Lightworker Diaries, a space for reflection, truth-telling, and soulful remembering. My name is Tiffany, and I am a truth teller, a mystic, and a mirror. These are transmissions from my heart to yours, an archive of channeled wisdom, lived stories, and the real work of becoming. May something in here stir something in you. Hello, my friends. It has been 2 months since I've recorded a podcast episode, and I have a lot to catch up with you on. So in February, I had a beautiful calling up where the coach that I'm working with presented me with something that really reminded me of not only who I am, but the value that I have and that I can provide to others. And that really shifted the way that I was thinking about myself and how I was approaching this business that I had launched at the beginning of the year. And the more that I sat in that energy and allowed myself to really take my power back, call my power back into my heart, instead of thinking I wasn't good enough to be doing the things that I really wanted to be doing, my thoughts were shifting. And I have done a lot of identity transformation in my lifetime. I am a Scorpio, if you didn't already know that. Moving through layers of identity shifts is just kind of what I do. I find that to be really, really fun. And so as I was stepping into this empowered version of me and thinking about what would be most fun for me to create, who would be most fun for me to work with, and what would be the most fun topics, concepts, identity shifts to fill my day. And the more I thought about it, the more I realized the thing that I love most is ideation, visioning, unlocking limitless potential. And so thinking to myself, I am building a business. I will just make that the business. I decided to go all in on leadership coaching, strategic thinking. And I thought to myself, well, this will be really easy because this is what every business needs. And so I started talking about it on LinkedIn. That was my main platform for connecting with people. I had this goal of reaching 500 followers because I knew at that point the algorithm sees you differently, puts you in front of more people. So I was posting 5 days a week. I was engaging in comments. I was really focusing on learning copywriting, marketing, sales, and I mean, deep dive. These are topics that I have studied on and off kind of throughout my career, but I went all in. And about halfway through February, I had this moment where I was like, why does it feel like energetically I'm not gaining any momentum? I knew logically I was taking actions. I was putting pennies in the proverbial metaphysical bank, but I just didn't feel like any momentum was building. And I had this moment where I was flashing back to when I was a life coach 8 years ago. And there were the things that were happening in my business, I just felt like they weren't enough. And the more that I put my energy out there and didn't receive what I expected in return, the more I began to feel these old patterns of what had happened before rise to the surface. And as those patterns rose to the surface, I started to get nervous. I started to get worried. I knew that the more that I focused my energy on them, the more that I would just recreate them. And so I did what I had to clear them. And I was clearing multiple times a day. But the energy was stagnant. It just felt like nothing was really moving. It wasn't even like I was sitting in a whirlpool. It was like I was sitting in a still lake and there was not a ripple in the water. And so at one point, I remember walking and saying out loud with deep conviction, I am no longer willing to build a business in scarcity. I am no longer willing to build a business and not receive. I'm not willing. I do believe that this is my sole purpose. I do believe that this is the work that I'm meant to be doing in the world. And I'm not willing to do it without resources. And what I was talking about was money, but what I was really talking about was energy. I needed to feel the energy coming back into my world, that there was a reciprocity that was happening. I was no longer willing to just continue putting something out there and not getting something back. The universe, being as the universe is, delivered. I received, I finished my taxes early, received a massive tax refund. And I was like, okay, great. We've got some more breathing room. But my mind was still saying, I need to figure out how to generate income consistently, right? The career that I left in October of last year, I got a salary. Me on salary, great. I can do a lot when I know the cash is coming in consistently. I hadn't been able to train my mind into believing that I have a new salary now. It's just direct from source. And even as I say that, I'm like, I don't want people to think that I'm saying I'm like tapped into this source bank account. I understand that the cash will still come through people. But the difference is it's going to come through variety of people, not necessarily just one. And that's okay. I get to increase my capacity to receive from more people. But the issue that I was having was still I wasn't feeling like I was succeeding, So February came to an end. Because I got the cash infusion, I said, okay, I will continue with this, but the goal is to get clients because I'm not going to continue for another 3, 6, 9 months without income. I have reached the threshold for what I'm willing to borrow. I have room to borrow more, but I really don't believe that is necessary for me. I believe there's a way for me to generate cash that doesn't come with an extra percentage that I have to pay back. I'm just not willing to go there anymore. And the interesting thing is, I have investments. I have investments that I could cash out. And the first time I worked with a high-ticket coach when I was coaching 8 years ago, she convinced me, and I say that because I was in a victim state at the time, I allowed her to convince me to tap into my retirement fund. And I nearly drained it. And I remember at one point in time her saying, I can't wait for you to drain your retirement fund because then you'll go out and actually do what you need to do. And I remember being pissed at her because she was supposed to be coaching me through the experience to be able to help me figure out the skill of sales. And it wasn't working. What she promised me, she didn't deliver. And so I told myself this time, I have no problem borrowing to get to where I need to go to build this business, but I refuse to touch the money I've already set aside for my future self. I refuse. I will get a job before I do that. And so when March came around, I said, okay, I've got some cash. I have some breathing room. I'm going to go ahead and focus on one thing and go all in on one thing. And so I decided strategic thinking, right? It's end of March. If you're in the corporate world, you know everything works in quarters. I'm an accountant by trade. And so I thought, you know what? One of my favorite things to do with the company that I had last worked with was quarterly planning. I loved it. I loved the visioning. I loved the dreaming. I loved figuring out the numbers. I loved putting into place, like digesting what had happened in the previous quarter, troubleshooting issues. Like I loved all of that. It was like the highlight of my year. And so I thought to myself, I'll just do that for people. Everyone wants to do quarterly planning, right? No, they don't. Not every entrepreneur works with structure. Not every entrepreneur understands that planning is beneficial for giving yourself direction. And so I got really dialed in on my messaging. I got really dialed in on my ideal client. I got really dialed in on their pain points. And I started going. And it was really fascinating because my LinkedIn post views jumped, right? And like, mind you, I had gone from not using LinkedIn at all to using it for, at this point, like 5 weeks. And all of a sudden I was having over 1,000 post views and I was like, oh, it's working. And then my mastermind group, we all decided to join this sales challenge, 30-day sales challenge. And I thought to myself, divine timing. This is exactly what I need right now. It was all about sell every day. And the container, every person in the container was selling every day. I was like, this is the energy I want to be in. There was, training on how to sell every day, training on how to just sell, training on messaging. And I was like, oh, divine timing, this is it. So I started selling every day. And the interesting thing that happened was I was posting primarily on LinkedIn because I thought this is where I've started to build momentum. This is where it's going to be. And then next week, after my first week of, post views over 1,000, that next week, post views dropped to like 600. And I was like, well, that's fascinating. So adding an invitation to work with me at the bottom of each post is changing the energetic dynamic. Okay, noted. And so then I thought to myself, well, what if I gave them something that's a clear offer, not just a, hey, come work with me, but a clear offer. And so I remember the lightning bolt of inspiration. I created this thing called the Strategic Reset. And it was a private podcast going through the 6 foundational pillars of your business for businesses ranging from like 250,000 to 2 million in revenue. Structured, clear, solved a very specific problem, easy for me to express, also something I know very, very well. And so I built out the sales page. And then for the next week, I sold it, right? I put it out there on LinkedIn and I was excited about it. I was honestly excited about it. And so day 1 goes by, day 2 goes by, day 3 goes by, day 4, I tap into the energy and I was like, there's nothing there. There's nothing there. It's an empty energy sack. And so then I started to get really confused because I was like, I promised myself to land a client or 2 to build the momentum for this business. I have followed the energy of what has come up for me that feels most alive, that feels most aligned, and yet the results aren't matching what my expectations are. And I began to make meaning about who I was. And so I sat with it, I pulled cards, I journaled, I went for a walk, and I got back to that point that I've had on several previous occasions where I said, universe, I just don't think it's supposed to be this hard. I just don't. I'm open. I am open to fun. I am open to purpose. I am open to connection. I am open to creativity. I am open to prosperity. I'm open. One afternoon, Dave sent me a YouTube video. He had been watching a podcast on YouTube about it's a guy who does like unique jobs and businesses and side hustles. And he was interviewing this woman who has a custom magnet printing business. And he's like, I think you might want to check this out. So the thing that you might want to know about Dave and I is we have a really interesting co-manifestation process. It's the same process nearly every time. And there's this wonderful little hiccup in the beginning that always throws me for a loop. So when I want something and Dave wants it too, we create this shared vision. And I go off and do my witchy magic thing because that's what I love. And inevitably, something comes up that looks like it fits, but isn't quite right. And my sweet little self gets flustered, throws her little kid temper tantrum, and is like, why doesn't this ever work for us? And the next thing that comes in is beyond perfect. So as an example, when we decided that we were going to get a dog, I'd been looking and looking and looking and looking. And I had a very clear, like, I wanted a big dog. Dave actually wanted a small dog. And, we had kind of some breeds that we were interested in and, how we wanted them to be part of our lives. And I was looking, actively searching for dogs on a regular basis. And I found one that I thought had potential. And so we went, they were at a, foster house. So we went to the house, we visited the dog, and sweet dog, but it was a smaller dog. His name was Buster. And we both kind of left like, I don't know. And the next day, Dave was like, I think we need to go see this other dog. And I was like, okay. So we went and we found it was Max. And when we saw Max, I remember thinking to myself, this dog, he was a rescue, was terrified. He was slunk all the way down. I mean, he's a big dog. He's an American Pitty Mix, 85 pounds, pure white, biggest heart you could imagine. Terrified to be in this very loud, noisy shelter. But he's the dog's dog, right? He loves to be with other dogs. Absolutely loves it. He is Dave in animal form. Dave loves his people. Max loves his dogs. But when we first met him, he was terrified. He wouldn't come near us. He was hiding. And I was like, I don't know. Terrified dogs, like, if you don't give them the right care, attention, training, love, support, they can become reactive dogs. And that could be very, very, very scary. And Dave's like, I think he's the one. And I was like, okay. I wanted his dog. He has a big dog, which was my promise or my preference. And so we brought Max home. And Max has been one of the best things that's happened to us. I love him to pieces. So when it came back to the beginning of this year, Dave had been asking me for quite some time to start a business with him. And I was so hesitant. I was so hesitant because I wanted a business that was going to make a lot of cash so that we could travel the world. And so I wanted freedom. I wanted flexibility. I wanted cash flow. Like, there were very specific things that I wanted. And what Dave was looking at was boring businesses, Cody Sanchez style, taking over a laundromat, becoming it, starting a handyman business, starting a landscaping business. And I was like, that isn't going to let us travel. Like, we're going to have to work extra hard and be wherever, this business is. And so we were kind of, not moving forward in any direction, not saying we wouldn't do it, but also saying like we hadn't come to a vision, a clear combined vision. And when the beginning of the year started, I had this, again, divine download that I was meant to start an accounting business and that Dave was going to do it with me. And the interesting thing was, I wasn't excited about doing an accounting business. I've been an accountant my entire life. It is not what I love. It is something that I can do very well. And the idea of starting an accounting business was not exciting to me at all. And the only thing that kept me in it was this idea that I could be the CEO and hire people to do the accounting, and that was okay. But as the idea started to grow, as the idea started to develop, the weight of realizing that I was going to have to teach Dave how to do accounting kind of squashed the energy for me. Because then it was, no, now I still have to be responsible for the accounting. And if I have to be responsible for the accounting, I might as well just do it myself. And if I just do it myself, I don't want to do that. That's not my dream. I'm not interested in it. I won't maintain the energy to do what I have to do to make that thing a reality. And so then at late January, I got called up in this beautiful way. And I was like, oh, I'm going to get into this coaching thing. I do love coaching. I'll do this thing that I really love. But again, it didn't go anywhere. So when I came back from this walk and Dave sent me this YouTube podcast that was this woman making magnets, I thought to myself, this is it. This is the thing. For reasons I cannot explain, this is the thing. It's the same thing that happened when we found our 10 acres out in the middle of nowhere, Oregon. And Dave kind of did it as a joke, but the moment that I saw it, I said, that's ours. And it is. Magnet business, Same thing. That's it. And it's done. I would have never guessed in a bazillion years that this was the business I would start with Dave. This wasn't even on the 10th level of the drawing board. The farthest remote layers of the rings of possibility. I didn't even know it existed. And yet the moment that I saw the idea, the moment I watched the YouTube video, I had the name for the business and everything else, steady stream of information just flowing in. I registered the business, set up the bank account, set up the website, set up our workflows, ordered everything that we needed, all of which was on sale, and had the idea to start taking pre-orders and to start booking events now while we wait for our machines to come in, which should be here next week. I have not hit a single hiccup in the process. Everything has been seamless and so much fun. I've woken up at 5 a.m. for the past week because I am so excited to get into this business that my body's like, let's just freaking do it already. If you've been listening along, you might know I wake up every morning, I do a meditation, I journal for a little bit. I can sit in journaling space for an hour, sometimes two, because I just love that vibration. I have had maybe a page each day because although my mind's like, I love this space, my body's like, let's go create something. Let's go take action. Let's turn this dream into a reality. Let's make this real. And so that's what I've been doing. And it has been so much fun. I have felt so much more alive and so much more excited to build this that I just can't help but believe our success is inevitable. Every other business that I've started, it has been the math comes first. Will this create the lifestyle that I desire? And this time, I've done the math because I'm an accountant. I've done the cost analysis. I know what our pricing needs to be to support the margins that we need, like all of that. But I haven't been sitting here trying to visualize a specific revenue number every day, asking Source to tell me how to make that the reality. That's not important. What's important is being in the experience of building the business and putting it out there. And that part has been so much fun. And don't get me wrong, even as I say this to you right now, there's a part of me that's like, is this just another failed idea in the making? To be honest, I get to decide. I honestly get to decide. But I feel like it's different. And I feel like largely it's different because it's Dave and I doing it together. We're equal partners on the playing field here. Neither one of us has made magnets before, but we're both wicked smart, problem solvers, people. It's going to come together. It's going to work because we both can do any part in the business. And when we both put our energies together and point in the same direction, magic happens every single time. And so I share this with you for a couple of reasons. One, when I was heads down, overthinking how to sell coaching for 2 months, I thought the Lightworker Diaries didn't have a place in my life any longer. I thought it was an old version of me, an old identity of me that no longer fit into the version of me that was becoming. I actually thought I was going to start a business podcast. And I didn't want to maintain two. I love podcasting. I didn't realize how much I loved it until I started it late last year. And I just thought I was going to be busy to the point that I wouldn't be able to maintain two. And I thought the Lightworker Diaries just got to go. And so I was planning to let it go. But with this idea to start the custom magnet business, all of a sudden my ability to be in the expression of me for the fun of it came back to the surface. I didn't need a podcast to be performative, to be influential, to be a sales channel for me. I can have a podcast just for fun. And the reason that this shifts the signal for this is because I'm not thinking, who is the ideal listener? What do you need to hear? And you know what? Maybe that breaks the rules of marketing. Maybe that breaks the rules of content. Maybe no one will listen to this, and that's okay. That's totally okay. Because this doesn't have to make me money. I now have a business that will. And I also know that if that business doesn't, I'll just figure out something else. I already know how to create cash, the frequency of money I can tap into and pull 5 figures out of thin air if I decide it. And so I wanted to share all these details with you because starting a business is not linear. It's not. And I can't tell you the number of times I thought to myself, oh, this is the thing. Oh, this is the thing. Oh, this is the thing. I don't recall if I said this in the earlier episodes in January, but I pull a spirit animal card every year. I've done it for the past several years. And this year I pulled the coyote. And I looked at the card, which at the bottom said something to the effect of divine detours. And I put it back. I am not here for that, was my message. And that is exactly the journey that I have been on. Divine detours. And the uncomfortable thing about detours is you don't understand what they're doing for you until you look back and you see the perfect line and you understand how each and every step along the way has given you exactly what you needed to be who you are now. All that sales training, all that copywriting training, all that messaging has not gone to waste. I love to write. I love messaging. That is all learning to help me develop a skill that will help me no matter what I do. Even if I were to go out and get a job, my messaging is clearer because of the training that I have done and the experience that I have had from that training. Everything we do is happening for our highest good. Everything we do, even when it doesn't make logical sense in the moment, is preparing us for what is next. I had to go all in as a coach. I had to go all in as a strategic thinking support person. I had to go all in creating these offers and building these websites, in purchasing these softwares and programs that I bought annual subscriptions for that I may never use again. But money is an unlimited resource. There will always be more of it. I had fun doing what I was doing, even when I was kind of frustrated with it. And it has helped me to be where I am now, doing something that I'm really, really excited about. So, what you can expect from me as we move forward is a promise to speak from my heart, a promise to show up, be present, share my journey, and share it honestly. I mean, that's what my whole thing always has been with the Lightworker Diaries. I have done my best to be as transparent about my experience of my life as I possibly can. And my hope is that it makes a difference for someone. The reality is it makes a difference for me. To be able to process out loud my human experience is hugely beneficial. I would love for this to one day be part of my How I Built This Business Experience podcast journey. Maybe it will, maybe it won't. That detachment could be the key to my success. We will find out. But what I know for sure is right now, I'm having a lot of fun. I'm smiling more. I have more energy. I'm spending more quality time with Dave in a way that really is bringing us closer. And I'm really excited for what's to come. So thank you. Thank you for listening. Thank you for following along. Thank you for coming back after a long break. Thank you. Thank you for listening to the Lightworker Diaries. If something stirred in you today, take a breath and let it land. To go deeper, you can subscribe to the written diaries on Substack. You'll find a link in the show notes. Until next time, be true to you.